Do you long for a little more positivity in your life? Psychotherapist Mike Dow is here, and best-selling author and editor-in-chief Amy Newmark join us to help you uncover the power of yes.
Welcome. Yes.
So, Amy, your new book is Chicken Soup for the Soul, The Power of Yes. What does the power of yes mean exactly?
You know what's great about it? It's something that we can all do. We all have the power to implement this immediately, because by saying yes to new things in our lives, we feel proud of ourselves. We feel empowered. We expand our lives instead of letting them get narrower. I've put together some tips from the book that I'd like to share.
Yep.
Because I think that everybody can go home today with these ideas. So the first tip is make a policy to say yes to new things. Just do it without thinking. So I did it, for example. I went on vacation to Oman on the Persian Gulf, which
cool.
You might think that was the crazy thing that I did, but no, that was the easy part. The hard part was that the really cool hotel guests arrived at the resort via paraglider.
Oh.
Wow.
So I was kind of terrified, but I did it. And the worst thing was when they said to me that you have to run off the cliff without stopping, and you won't know if the parachute is filling up with air until you run off the cliff. So I did it.
Now, Amy, that's a pretty way to make your entrance into this
Like a boss.
beautiful location.
Now I have a second tip for you. My second tip is dare to be different. And don't be afraid to reinvent yourself. So I've got a great story.
That's good.
So listen to this story. Randy Collins was a Marine, but then he became morbidly obese. He went and had bariatric surgery. He lost 115 pounds, ran the Marine Marathon, and then went to USC as a grad student, realized he had NCAA eligibility because he had never done a sport in college, and in his mid-40s, walked onto the USC lacrosse team. He's been playing lacrosse for 3 years now, still has another year of eligibility.
He said yes.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And Amy, I understand you have one more tip for us?
And I have one more tip for you, which is face your fears, because that will expand your life. And so I have a great story in Chicken Soup for the Soul, The Power of Yes, from Kathy Bernier, who had been so afraid of water that she wouldn't even go to a party that was being held by a swimming pool. And so her life was so narrow as a result. And finally, at age 44, she said, this is ridiculous. And she went and took a private swimming lesson, not to swim, but just to go into the pool. And she spent the entire lesson, more than half an hour, just going from the 2-foot depth to the 5.5-foot depth. She did it. And 5 months later, she swam the entire length of the pool.
Whoa.
Wow. You know what Amy, I love these stories. How many of us have read a Chicken Soup for the Soul book? My mom read them, I read them growing up, and they're the kind of stories that when you read them, you get the chills and they inspire you. But you know, when I hear that story, it's like, oh my gosh, that person was using cognitive behavioral therapy and they changed their lives simply by showing up, by changing their brains, by changing their bodies, by saying yes. And it can actually change your whole life, right?
Absolutely.
By what you do every single day.
That's why I love this.
Yeah.
And I've gotten so many stories from our writers about just saying yes and how transformative it was. And that's why I made this new collection, because this is something we all can do, and we can all start doing it today.
It's really interesting, you know, when you say yes, it actually helps you to become more optimistic. One Duke University study found, you know, people who actually were struggling with heart disease, they followed people over 15 years. And if you say yes, if you take that risk, if you can not only fight depression, improve your relationships, but these people in this long-term study were 30% less likely to die.
Wow.
So imagine that. You could change your life. You could actually save your life simply by saying yes. So isn't that incredible that these stories...
Yes.
So we can all say yes.
Positivity, positive attitude.
Yeah.
Well, you can find Chicken Soup for the Soul, The Power of Yes, wherever books are sold. Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Dr. Dow.
So much.
Good stuff.